Hello! We are going to do a increased layered haircut, and today I'm going to show you how I do it in the salon. I'm going to use my husband's phone for references for what we're going to create today, and he will show them up on the camera right now. So we'll be doing some face framing and some layers. So first I'm going to start with doing a solid form. So with every haircut I always start in a solid form. So I'm going to start there, and we're only going to be doing a ½ inch for this haircut, okay? So I'll turn it so you guys can see. And notice I also have a side part for this haircut because most clients usually have a side part, and I want to show you guys how to do this off the side. But we can definitely do it in the middle also, but I'm going to do it off the side today. Okay. So we're going to start with the solid form. So you'll notice that the head is at chest level, and I'm tilting the head forward. My feet are boxed out, and I'm just bending my knees. So I'm going to be doing a solid form. And by the way, my section for doing the solid form, I'm doing my first section based off the curve of the head. So if you can see, this is where I'm starting the beginning of my haircut. It's in the nape area, okay? So I already have it centered in the back, side part in the front, and then I'm gonna do the nape area, and I'm gonna do solid form, and I'm only taking a ½ inch off. So I'm gonna start in the center, come here, and I have her shampooed already, and I have a little bit of Moroccan oil in the hair to help for combing the hair out so it's easier to cut. Now I know a lot of you guys don't have your Ashley mannequin at home. I'm actually okay with you using any mannequin head that you have, just not the Alexis. You can grab any mannequin head and do this one. Just promise me not to cut too much hair off because we're gonna try and get a lot of haircuts out of this, whatever mannequin you have at home. You can do the Michelle or whatever's easiest. So there's my length. I did a ½ inch off that nape area. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna take my next section, which is right here, the flat spot of the head. Continue on with my solid form. Notice I'm not cutting past my second knuckle. Keeping a straight line. My hands are parallel to the floor. And I'm moving my body with each section. So I'm always cutting in front of my chest. Now here, because she's layered already, there's not going to be much length to cut. I'm assuming, but let's double check. All right, so we are set. I'm gonna do the sides. Bring her upright. Whoa, easy. Comb it all over. And if you'll notice, I'm taking the whole section from that side part over. You can see I have it all the way over. And I'm gonna bring it all down to do my solid form. Just a little bit to nip off, and there's nothing really in the front to cut. And that's okay. Turn it around. So then I'm gonna go highest point right here, the apex, or bring it all over. There's a little bit of a hole here from previous haircut. That's all right. We're gonna probably blend that in later with face framing. I just cut past my second knuckle. Naughty, naughty. Okay, so now I have my solid form done. So I'm gonna go back, separate the front from the back, section these sides apart again. I personally don't need to use clips when I'm doing this, just because I'm pretty aggressive with how I comb the hair. Feel free to use clips if you want to. If not, it's all good. Now my head's getting a little bit dry here, so I'm actually gonna re-wet her. So I'm gonna spray her. Okay, so I resaturated her hair. Now, and I have her solid form done. So now I'm gonna decide where I want her layers to lay. So remember, we start at the apex, the highest point on the head, and we decide where do we want the layers to fall. Now again, remember we're only doing a 1/2 inch, but I just want you to see this is how we start. Remember the apex, highest point of the head. So right here, so that's right here, that's right below the earlobe. So we're gonna bring it up. I'm just gonna cut a 1/2 inch off. There we go. And there's our guide for our layers. So I'm gonna let this drop. And then I'm gonna use this as my guide. So I'm gonna do a vertical section. Okay, vertical section. Now remember, I only do sections as wide as my finger. I'm gonna go all the way down and grab this whole section. Now a lot of you might not be able to grab the whole section because your fingers just aren't used to it, which is totally fine. Let it drop out as we elevate. And I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna stand over here. I'm gonna stand right here, and I'm gonna comb the hair up. That's okay if this drops. This is your length. You don't want to affect that. So comb it up. Comb it up. Comb it up. Nice clean sections, okay? You see that there's no stragglers in through here. It's all clean, nice, tight section here. So I'm gonna find my guide, and here's my guide right here. And here, right there, by my knuckles, is basically where the length is. So think of this as connecting the dots. So I could do a square increase layer. This one's really good for doing curly hair. I'm not really going for that kind of look though. I want it to be really soft and blended in, like the picture that we showed you. So I'm gonna invert my fingers. So I'm gonna come up, straight here, bring it up, and you can see my guide is right there. And then I'm just gonna trim that little bit and see how my fingers are inverted. Now again, I can Now see how this all hair that fell out? That's okay. So basically we're gonna be layering this little section on the top of the head. And there you go. So cutting this to here will just make it a nice, clean, fresh, increased layered haircut. And remember, we don't want to cut a lot of hair off right now anyway. It's just going through the steps. So I'm going to take half of this section, split that in half, get that out of my way, and now I'm going to create a new section pivoting off that apex, okay? So our next section is right here. Section as wide as my finger. Comb it up. Nice clean partings. Keep combing the hair until it's nice and tight, no stragglers in there. If you have stragglers in there, your haircut's gonna be uneven and it can be choppy. So I'm gonna elevate, find my guide, there it is, just cutting a little bit off. Split this up, keep pivoting off the head. Okay, to let that drop out, so we're not really cutting into it anyway. So come up here, there's my guide, cut into it, split that up, keep pivoting around. Let that drop out, because we know we're only cutting this part. Here. Notice my fingers are pointing down at the head, letting it drop, split it, and keep moving. Fingers are still pointing at the top of the head. I'm pivoting around. There we go. Split this. Here. Little bit to cut. Right here. This is my last section. And this little last section, I actually always kind of over drag back to the previous section. So I don't ever cut straight up right here, because I always get worried that if I cut into that straight from that point, I'm going to create a little hole right here, and then it'll be really lightweight. So what I like to do is I'll take this section and bring it back to the previous section. Instead of cutting it here, I'm going to shift it backwards and then come up, just so I can leave a little bit of weight in this area so I don't create a hole. If you guys have ever seen anybody with long layers and they have lots of layers, a face frame and all that, and then a little bit of a weird spot right by their shoulder, that's where the hole is, right here. That's because it was layered too much. So that's why I like to shift it back a little bit and not cut into it. Okay, so I'm gonna continue the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna go back, find my guide here. There it is. Oh, no. Here's my guide. So here we go. Go. Fingers are pointing at the apex. Cut above your finger. Let it drop. Split that in half. And take another section as wide as your finger. Hopefully you guys can see my fingers. Just a little bit of hair. All right, now we're at our, I call the danger zone, which you guys know this. So I'm gonna come bring this up. And then I'm gonna bring it back to our previous section because I wanna create a little bit of weight in this area right here. So bring it back. And then just bring it up and then just elevating a little bit. Okay, now we have the back done. Now we switch to the sides. Just because I'm a weirdo and I like to make sure that there's a lot of weight in here, I'm actually gonna take this next section and actually shift it back to that back corner of the head where I did the first over direction. So I'm gonna create a new section. And this is where the highest point is, where my section is. So I'm gonna take a section from there and a section from my previous cut. So here's my new section to go to the forward, to the front, I mean. And I'm gonna bring it back from two sections ago. So I'm gonna bring it back, do some elevating, point right here. I'm gonna cut here, okay? Now this is my new guide to work forward, okay? So I'm gonna split that in half. And then I'm gonna come straight up from this section to create my increased layers. Some people call this a inverted 180. So I'm gonna come up, here's my new guide, and I'm going to point down at the center of the head. Here we go. Here's that. And then I'm gonna do this section. Here we go, half of this section. Come straight up. And we're gonna come up and invert my fingers, and my fingers are pointing straight at that part line, okay? Okay, so now, have you guys ever noticed a haircut with holes around the face framing? A lot of people tend to get holes if they layer this hair into their haircuts. And that comes from elevating all the hair up and doing your increased layers. I'm going to leave the hairline out so we can leave that weight into our face framing, and that'll prevent us from having a hole around the face. Because usually the hole comes from right here, but we're gonna leave that so we don't create a hole. So I'm gonna elevate this, comb it up, see if there's anything to cut, and there is. I'm gonna blend that in. Now a lot of you might be wondering, well, this isn't gonna blend in to this because I'm not cutting it. You'd be surprised that it's all gonna flow beautifully when it's in its natural place. So I'm gonna let that be, and then I'm gonna worry about that part when it's dry and we're done and we have it styled. But I'll do the face framing too while it's wet. Okay, so I'm gonna move to the other side. Now remember, I stood back here when I did the left side. Now that I'm going to the right side, I'm going to be facing behind our head. So, my next section to move on is half a section from the previous haircut. Oh, that section's too wide. And this is new hair to cut. Now remember, I'm bringing this back not to here, but to here, to my previous section. So I'm gonna bring it back. Nice clean partings. And remember, keep your fingers pointed at the head when you cut. And there it is. There's my guide. So I'm going to split that in half. Then I'm going to continue moving on, probably about 2 more sections before I get to the hairline. Maybe 3, we'll see. So I'm going to come up, and now my fingers are also pointing. Right here. It's hard to find the guide here. There it is. There she is. So cut into here. Nice clean partings. Working my way up. Someone got janky in this haircut before. Was it me? So split that in half. And then moving forward. There's my guy. Split that in half. I'm not in the hairline yet. This is my last section before I'm in the hairline. Here we go. So, remember, now we're in the hairline. I'm not touching any of this hair, but I'm going to leave like an inch out of the hairline. Leave that so I don't create any holes on this side. So I'm going to layer just this little part right here and see if there's anything to cut. lost my guide. Let's go back and find it. There we go. It's right there. This. And then here's my section. And then we'll blend that in. All right, and now I want to have some face framing body around the face. So how I establish this from off the part is I decide where I want the bang to kind of fall. So I'll start here because that's the focal point right here. You know, do we want it to be at the nose? Do we want it to come to the cheek? Do we want it to be at the chin? You know, some people might want to know, you know, they might want to still be able to tuck it behind their ears. So at this point, what I would do is say if they still want to tuck behind their ear, I'll actually comb this hair to behind the ear to see where it would be. So if she still wanted to, you know, part her hair or put her hair behind her ear, this is where my guide would be. I could cut this off. This would be the minimum or max I would take off if she still wanted to part her hair behind or tuck her hair behind their ear. But I want her to have like a full-on side bang. So I'm actually gonna go to her nose. So I'm gonna let it kind of, I'm gonna bring this all forward because I want it to be lots of volume and lots of body. So I'm gonna comb it right here. And I'm just gonna kind of let this kind of be, because most people have like a colic in this area. Just kind of let it be where its natural fall is. And I want it to be where her nose is. So I'll actually take this piece, swing it, and then cut right here. And there's my guide. So on the other side, I'll take this piece and I'll kind of match it up to this. Kind of comb it together. Create something there. So now here's my guide for her fringe. So you can see. So I'm going to comb this forward. So there is my guide right here for her bangs. Now I'm not going to cut straight across because that would be atrocious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my palm straight down, keep my tension, comb it straight down, right here. So there's my guide. I'm gonna let that kind of pop out a little bit. I'm gonna take my shears and I'm gonna be doing a sliding action. I'm gonna be skimming through here. I'm never closing. My thumbs are just gonna go back and forth and I'm gonna be sliding. So I rest my shears on my middle finger and I just slide and I'm just coming down. Now mannequin shears are gonna be hard to do that with, but just practice, see if you can get that down. There. And then for face framing, I constantly comb everything forward and I eyeball where I wanna see everything. So I'm here, I'm liking how that looks. I do not like how this looks. So then this is where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna come here, there's my guide. You can see my finger, I'm gonna let that come out. And then I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna slide and I'm moving down. And you can kind of see how that's just creating face framing. Now this is just my basic work. Once I get her round brushed and dried, then we'll do the detail work I like to do. That's a little bit more of advanced stuff, but I think it'd be fun for you guys to play around with at home if you can. here's my guide. So the way I do face framing on this side is a little backwards. You don't necessarily have to do it how I do it. If you cut this way, we're gonna create the hair to flip out. So we don't wanna cut that way. So we want our shears to come the other way, which is this way, and that'll keep the hair from flipping out and it'll curl into her face. So how I do the face framing is I come down this way. Some people go down this way, which is actually, I believe, the correct way, but for some reason it's hard for me to do that. So I like to come down this way. Remember, short hair pushes long hair, so that's why I want to be creating this effect. And that's why if you come here, the shorter hair is underneath around the perimeter, which will cause the hair to flip out. So that's what that means. Short hair pushes long hair. That's why we want to come this way, so the hair will come around this way. Okay, so here's my guide. So I'm gonna come here, there's my guide. I'm gonna come down, again, I'm doing the same motion. Just take your time. Probably the first time you do it, you're gonna be a little nervous and it'll probably get stuck, but you'll figure it out. You just keep practicing. If you have problems with it, just give me a call or email me. We can chat, we can talk about it. Send me a video of yourself doing it anyways, and I'll be able to tell you how to change it up. All right. So now her haircut is done. Her basic haircut to me is done. So now I'm going to round brush her, get her dry, and then see how things are laying. And then I'll show you guys how to do a little bit of detail work and some texturizing. our increased layered haircut, round brushed. Hopefully you guys noticed how I would start the round brush on hot. Well, first I started round brushing or blow drying on medium heat. Then I stuck with medium heat with the paddle brush. And then I went through, once I grabbed the round brush, I went to hot. And then once I saw the shine come in the hair, I went to cool, because that meant the cuticle was closed and the form would take shape. If you can see, I'm just checking my work to see how everything looks, and I'm digging it so far. I'll let you see. So this is how I'm going to check my work. I'm going to bring you to here. Hopefully this looks good. So I'm going to check my work based off the part. So if I've created a V effect, that means I'm even. Let's keep our fingers crossed. So I'm going to come up here, here, it's pretty even. Which, oh, there it is. Here's my V. That means we are even because we are inverting our fingers here and here, and we're even, so it's great. If I see anything that looks a little bit more thick or choppy, I'm gonna show you how to, I will adjust that so it's not so thick. I'll just do one little section and then we'll be done. And then we can work on texturizing and blending later if you guys are more interested in hearing more about that. So like right here, I see like a chunk of hair that could just be a little bit more softened so it's not so chunky looking. So I'm gonna elevate this just to see, because that's where the hair is forming. That's why I do a lot of dry cutting for my detail work. And I'm gonna elevate this and just kind of pick up that chunk, just kind of see how that looks. So I'm gonna elevate it perpendicular to the head, and I'm just gonna look for like a chunk of hair that might be kind of messing with my flow here. Yes, and the chunk of hair is right here. Do you see it? It's the point right here, and it just looks a little heavy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna fan it out, and I'm just gonna soften it. Okay, and with that, you'll see that this will flow a little bit more soft and be a little bit more feathery. All right, hopefully you guys learned a lot from this video and you didn't fall asleep. Comment and let me know if you have any questions, but I want to see your guys' work also. Send me your videos and then I'll give you any feedback that I have for you. Bye! This is our final work. See layers. Oh, the lights are hard to see.